Hello everyone and welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today's Friday, so this is going to be the Dollar Store Stack series. This is going to be the series where we're looking at FanDuel and DraftKings and giving you some cheap stacks that you can build for your GPP lineup. So it's going to be a relatively cheap quarterback paired with some of their wide receiver or tight end options that are relatively cheap as well. Altogether, you're building a cheap stack that allows you to pay up at other positions. So I got 4 on the DraftKings side and 4 on the FanDuel side. So we'll start off on the DraftKings side overall. So first off, we got Taylor Heineke paired with Curtis Samuel and Ricky Seals-Jones. So Taylor Heineke is $5,900. He's done pretty well so far this year, honestly. He's at 21.5 fantasy points per game. They do go against the Saints, so it's not the best matchup in the world, but he's a good pivot play off of some of these other chalkier options too. Your Daniel Jones in the same price range, essentially. And you're looking for about 18 points out of him if he gets close to that. If he gets that 20 points, once again, you're going to be doing pretty well in this one. Curtis Samuel, his wide receiver at $3,000, did return last week. Didn't play a ton of snaps, so he didn't really pay off in value there. He was at 5.9 points, but at $9,000, if you're able to get double-digit points out of him, he's really going to help out your lineup. He is an option that I do expect to be a little bit more chalky in general, probably for cash games and a little bit in GPPs as well, just because he's that flat minimum $3,000 price tag at the wide receiver position, and he should see at least 50% of snaps in this game. Then last but not least was Ricky Seals-Jones. He's the flat minimum at tight end, $2,500. He's only averaging 3.2 points per game this season, but Logan Thomas is now on IR. He's going to see the lion's share of the snaps at tight end. And kind of like I already mentioned, they don't have a bunch of pass catchers right now. Curtis Samuel still has that questionable tag. They do have Adam Humphries and Terry McLaurin and J.D. McKissick, but Diami Brown's unlikely to play in this game. Same thing for Cam Sims. So they might look to Ricky Seals-Jones more often than not. If he gets that touchdown, he's going to really put your lineup over the edge. And pairing him with Tyler Heineke, you're going to have that touchdown for both of them, and it's really going to help set your lineup over the edge in GPPs. Then next up, we got the New England stack, and I think this one's going to be a little bit of a contrarian stack just because everybody assumes the Patriots are kind of going to run away with this game. They're going to lean on Damian Harris quite a bit, so he's going to be super chalky this weekend, and maybe the Texans are able to stop the run. There is a lot of concern with the offensive line for the Patriots in this game. I believe they have 2 different players in the COVID protocol and a couple other starters that are banged up as well. So if those guys aren't able to go, it might be a little bit harder to run the ball. I know that would affect the passing game too if the pass rush can get home for the Texans. You know, I'm a Texans fan. I know this defense is nothing special at this point in time. But if that's the case, Mac Jones, $5,300. Looking for about like 16, 17 points out of him. You know, all he has to do really to get that is throw 2 touchdowns. So if he's able to do that, have a decent amount of yardage, he's going to be a good play for GPPs, and he's got that relatively cheap salary overall. And, you know, it's a little bit different way to get off of some of the other plays that might be out there like Justin Fields or Trey Lance. I know he does not offer the rushing upside of those 2 players, but if he throws the 2 touchdowns, he could have put up a similar score as well. Jacoby Myers, his wide receiver, $5,600, averaging about 13 points so far this season. A very good matchup for him once again. He's going to be the most popular wide receiver out of the New England. I don't think you would try to get cute and get away from him, though, if you are going with this stack. And then last but not least, we have both tight ends. We have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Pretty much just pick your poison here. The Texans have been pretty poor against the tight end position so far this year. Hunter Henry's played the most snaps, but Jonnu Smith obviously is a super athletic specimen that can score touchdowns as well. Either one of them could score a touchdown. We could see like last week where both of them scored a touchdown. Definitely could help set your lineup over the edge. Then we move over to the Cincinnati stack, and there's quite a few options here. So Joe Burrow is $6,100, averaging about 19 points on the season. Looking for about 21 out of him in this slate. It's a game that could end up being a little bit of a shootout against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, we know they're going to put points up on the board. Their defense is nothing special at this point in time, especially probably missing Jair Alexander for a couple weeks now. So there is opportunity for Joe Burrow and his pass catching options in this game. T. Higgins could be back. He's $5,000. If he's back, I like him quite a bit. I don't think they're really going to limit him. You know, he's going to be a guy that's not drawing a lot of ownership, so a lot of people are going to be going to Jamar Chase or Tyler Boyd instead, so going to T. Higgins definitely could pay off. Even playing 2 of these 3 wide receivers definitely could pay off as well. Jamar Chase, we've obviously seen it so far from him this year. He is a little bit of value at his current price. Tyler Boyd, looking at his current price, he's a little bit overpriced, but not anything too drastic that you couldn't play him in this matchup. And then CJ Uzomah, who we did see last week, $3,000. He's still dirt cheap at tight end. If T. Higgins is back, that definitely could affect him, though. But that could help make your lineup a little bit more unique if he gets in there with the touchdown and nobody's playing him. Definitely a good, interesting stack, though, for the Cincinnati Bengals, and probably one that I'll be eyeing myself in GPPs. Then last but not least, on the DraftKings side, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know there's a lot of drama going on down in Jacksonville right now, mainly stemming from their head coach, Urban Meyer. But this is a great matchup for Jacksonville overall. Tennessee's defense has been awful this year. They made very average teams look good. They made Zach Wilson and the Jets look good. I am a big Zach Wilson fan myself, but they even let the Jets have some success. Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, not the greatest names in the world. They're still pretty good NFL players, but they allowed them to have quite a bit of success in terms of point scoring. So we could see the same this week from Trevor Lawrence, $5,800. You're really only looking for like 19, 20 points out of him. If you get that, you're going to be pretty happy. And he's kind of one of those pivot plays too. He does offer just a little bit of rushing upside, but in that same ballpark as Trey Lance, who's going to be super chalky. Paying up $100 more and potentially getting similar value could definitely pay off. Marvin Jones Jr., $5,700. I think he's slightly overpriced, but nothing too terrible, honestly. I don't think his ownership is going to be too super high, even though it is a good matchup. We could definitely see him pull off a Corey Davis-like game of last week. Laviska Shenault is probably the one that I would expect to be the most popular on this slate, $4,800. Obviously, DJ Chark is gone now. But overall, his target percentage really didn't go up without him. He didn't play any more snaps. He was still running out of the slot, so not much changed when he left the game. Then last but not least, for the wide receivers at least, I got Tevin Austin. He's the flat minimum $3,000. If you're looking to get off that Curtis Samuel kind of chalk play, maybe you go to Tavon Austin this week. He played over 70% of snaps after DJ Chark left the game. He only had 3 targets, got 1 for 8 yards. If he does a little bit more in this game, he could definitely pay off for that $3,000 flat minimum price tag. Then last but not least, we got Dan Arnold, $2,900. He saw 2 catches last week. Despite playing very minimal amount of snaps, despite only being with the team for about 2.5 days. So he's got about 10 more days on top of that now. So he's definitely going to be in play. I know Tennessee's been a little bit difficult against the tight end position, but part of that might just be because of how much they've given up to the wide receiver position so far this season. But with that being said, these are the 4 stacks that I do have for the DraftKings side. We'll get switched over to the FanDuel side and talk about the 4 that I have over there as well. So we're going to start off with the Chicago Bears first. I got Justin Fields, $6,400. We haven't seen a lot of production out of him so far. If they're able to at least give Justin Fields some time in this game, the Raiders' defense, as improved as it is, they are still hurting at that cornerback position. If Justin Fields gets loose in this game, gets a couple of runs, definitely could pay off for that price tag. Looking at Allen Robinson, $6,100, a very, very low price when you consider his name. But when you consider the production this year, it's probably overpriced. But once again, the Raiders are dealing with injuries to their cornerback position. This definitely could help out both wide receivers, and Allen Robinson at $6,100 and Darnell Mooney at $5,600. So the Bears stack here, you could definitely save a lot of money by going this direction. If you play Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields, that's only $12,000. That's only 1/5 of your budget over on the FanDuel side. Then I know I didn't include him on the DraftKings side. I think he's going to be really popular on the DraftKings side. It was Trey Lance. $6,900 on FanDuel, offers that rushing upside, offers some production. We saw him put up a ton of points despite only playing like 1/2 of football last week. So he's definitely in play. I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk because there's not going to be a lot of people playing him. I know everybody's going to be flocking to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel's price is like through the roof. But maybe a change of quarterback helps Brandon Ayuk. Maybe it helps George Kittle as well. George Kittle I do have down there as well at $6,500. Just keep an eye out on his injury. He's been dealing with that calf and really not practicing so far this week once again. But overall, that's the San Francisco 49ers stack. I think it's one that's going to be pretty popular. But adding Trey Lance and switching up his options just a little bit might be what puts you over the edge this week. Then we're going back to the New England stack once again. We got Mac Jones, $6,700, $200 essentially over the minimum for the quarterback position. I know Justin Fields was $6,400, so $300 more than him. Like I already mentioned on the DraftKings side, Houston defense is not very good. Patriots dealing with some offensive line problems, so maybe Damian Harris is not quite the chalk play that everybody thinks he is, and maybe Mac Jones has to throw the ball a little bit more than we anticipate. Jacoby Myers still a great play on the FanDuel side as well. Not quite as good on FanDuel because it's half-point PPR instead of full-point PPR. So it does affect his scoring just a little bit. But if he does find a way to get into the end zone this week, be the first time receiving wise in his career. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes. I know everybody on Twitter and their mother is kind of dogging that stat for the last couple weeks or so, but there's definitely a chance in this game, and he's a very solid wide receiver all around. And then once again, you have the 2 tight ends, Hunter Henry at $5,400, Jonnu Smith at $4,900. Essentially just looking for that touchdown from the tight end, and the Houston Texans defense has not done well against tight ends overall so far this season. And then last but not least, we got the one that I do anticipate being pretty chalky on the DraftKings side, and it's Daniel Jones. On DraftKings, he's $6,000. On FanDuel, he's $7,400. I don't mind this price here. I think he's priced up enough that most people are going to be chasing him on the FanDuel side. So this is where I like it in GPPs because the ownership's not going to be quite as high. Then we have Kenny Golladay, obviously the number 1 wide receiver remaining for the Giants. $6,200. Should see a good workload once again. If he gets into the end zone, if he gets that touchdown, he's definitely going to help your team overall. Kadarius Toney, $5,300. $800 above the minimum price tag. We've seen him be pretty productive last week. The only thing with him is he's more of a volume guy. He's not really going to be that touchdown scorer. So maybe you pivot off him. Maybe you just play Kenny Golladay or Evan Ingram that I do have listed down below. They're both going to get a ton of targets in this game. We don't see Sherlin Shepard or Darius Slayton playing once again. So looking at this Giants stack, getting a little bit cute with it, it could definitely pay off in GPPs, especially on the FanDuel side. Once again, on the DraftKings side, I think it's going to be a little bit more chalky over there. I think a lot of people are going to be attacking that Giants and Cowboys game, especially with Daniel Jones, probably Evan Ingram stacking on the FanDuel side, coming back with like a Zeke and an Amari Cooper or like CeeDee Lamb as well. Dalton Schultz is probably going to be popular as well over there. So just a way to get a little bit different on the FanDuel side, and I think it's not going to be quite as popular over there. But with that being said, those are the 4 stacks that I do have for the FanDuel side as well. These are the 8 stacks in total that I do have for my dollar store stack series for this week, week 5 of the NFL DFS season. Definitely going to be a very interesting slate. I think there's going to be a lot of value on this slate. And I truly do believe there's going to be a lot of plays that are deemed chalky. So high ownership guys, a lot of people are playing them that just don't pan out this week. And I think using some of these dollar store stacks as well as some other leverage plays is really what's going to be able to put your lineup over the top, especially in a GPP setting. But with that being said, if you guys are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. And that's one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS, whether it's NFL or NBA, helping you with your fantasy football teams, talking all different football news. There's a ton of injuries once again. So if you have the time tonight, Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, I will be on the Point After with Julian and myself. I believe we're going to have a special guest as well. And we go over pretty much all the relevant fantasy football injuries for the beginning part of the show. About 15 to 20 minutes, just kind of talking them through. And then tomorrow on Saturday, I also have my starts and sits video. I'll mention some of those injuries there as well. So definitely be sure to check out one of those too, especially if you're looking at injuries for this week. But with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And then last but not least, special shout out to each and every one of you watching today's video. I truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.